Okay, this is going to be a dream into a lucid dream sequence. And before I get started, I'm just going to show you I have these little flippy books. I used to journal in a larger book with big pages, and that just sort of became unnecessary for me over time. I started to write down so much. Really, it's just a boggle of mess and confusing stuff. The little pages for me help me condense and almost have to write down the underlying message or theme or lesson in what's happening with just a few short notes, usually just words with periods after each one. And when I go back later to read those, they make perfect sense to me, and I can recall the majority of what happened. So I'm just going to be flipping through my little bookies here and coming up with gems. They're not going to be in any particular order, but this one happened to be my last one. The dream part that was occurring, my interpretation of coming lucid was interesting. So I want to start with this one. And what it was, I was watching this delicate little white bird use a pine cone as a tool to break open another pine cone. Interesting in itself, because the pine cone is often used to represent the pineal. So I'm zooming in closer to get a closer look to see how this bird is opening this other pine cone, when another bird's face just looms out toward me and sort of pushes me back. Not too far away. I can still see that this is what the bird is doing, but I can't see how. The bird is then placed on my hand by my friend Susan from the Moving and Stillness board. Hello, Susan. A lover of birds herself. Made perfect sense that I interpreted her into the dream here for this particular event. So, but anyway, she places the bird on my hand, and we're walking through a sort of open foresty area, just a nature environment, and she's telling me that as we walk I can even catch a bit of the bird's wind. And as she says this, I begin coming up off the ground. At first just a little, but rather quickly a lot. And I'm still dreaming at this point, and so think I'm physical, and so at a certain point I begin to feel that it's too high, and I catch the top of a very tall tree and slowly bring us both back down. At this point the bird changes into a girl, and she's very upset. I start trying to calm her down. Very meaningfully, I can tell that this is, there's importance to this. But it's not working, and she almost leaves. But at a certain point, I guess she sees the sincerity in me trying to assist her, and everything's okay, that she attempts to try to communicate with me. Now, she doesn't speak any language that I recognize. And so I'm listening, and I'm listening, and I'm listening really intently. And at a certain point, after not too terribly long, I begin to hear familiar sounds, familiar groupings of syllables. And she sees me do this, and this makes us both happy that we've started to that we have started to get through to each other, to actually communicate. And so this dream travels on for some time. I won't go into that. I'll just say that it leads into two short lucid dream events. And so as I'm transitioning out of this environment and transitioning into another, I all of a sudden realize that I am in the galley of a submarine, fully lucid. And I'm standing there and I'm looking around trying to figure out where I am. Everything's dark gray, no windows, no light. I just briefly take note that off to my left there is a middle-aged man washing dishes. And I transition out. A moment later, I transition back into the same submarine, but in a different area. Oops. Hardly ever rings. Okay, so I'm going to try to ignore this. So I transition right back in to the same submarine, but a slightly different area. And I'm walking, and as I'm walking, with each step, I start coming lucid and more lucid until I'm fully lucid. This is almost like no other time that I have come lucid before, because it happened so seamlessly and so evenly without that typical excitation of coming lucid. Usually that is there to some degree. This time it was not. It's always fun when this happens, but I mean, I was just so emotionally even as this happened. And as I'm walking, I passed two men in particular who appeared to be on the phone. At the time I was lucid, I was catching the conversation, but by the time I woke up proper, I didn't remember the conversation itself. But I had walked a good deal past these men and then stopped in my tracks, deciding right then, because I had been having conversations about this with some people on the Explorations in Consciousness board, which is why this happened. But I stopped and I decided I'm going to go back and confront those two men. And so I turn around and I walk back and straight up to the man that's not on the phone. He's a guy in his 50s, has brownish red hair and a beard, and I look right at him and demand to know, who are you? Now, I have no idea how I'm about to react to this man, because I had come lucid so seamlessly and was so emotionally even that I was completely startled that I got very aggressive with this person. He's startled that I've come right up to him and asked him who he is. And he's just sort of standing there, eyes wide, mouth agape, and at this point my emotion is rising, and so the environment is starting to give way already, but I've taken him by the shoulders. I've confused that as him taking me by the shoulders, and so I've started to feel a little bit scared, and I'm saying, who are you? And he's not answering, and I say, you're nobody. You're a dream character. You're in a dream. Do you know this? I'm getting very riled and very upset and giving him no opportunity to answer me in return. I just keep repeating this as I transition out and wake up proper in my room, sort of laughing because of my lack of skill over the whole thing. So the people that were talking about this on the talk board generally one of them in particular generally does this. She will see somebody in the environment that appears to be watching her, and she'll go up to this person and ask who they are. She says she very rarely gets a response from them, or an honest response. But I've been wanting to do it because I noticed that when I come lucid in a dream, so much of my attention is trying to figure out where I am, and I sort of feel like an alien in an alien environment and don't want to give myself away. But I figured it was time. It was time to confront a dream character and to let somebody know that I was lucid here.